Hi there, this is just a short induction video to help give you sort of key information for your Equality and Diversity programme that you've just enrolled through with ITEC Northeast. I'm just going to share a quick presentation that will come on the screen any second. I am going to go through this presentation, which will take around 10 to 15 minutes. In terms of my role within this process, my name's Andy and I'm going to be your tutor throughout the programme. So I am the person who marks your work, and I'm also the person who will support you if you do need any additional support sort of throughout the programme. So again, yeah, thank you for obviously choosing ITEC Northeast to do your training. That is appreciated, and I look forward to obviously supporting you through it as well. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is just what it is you're going to cover as part of the actual training. So you are doing a level 2 certificate in equality and diversity that is accredited, which means that when you do pass the qualification, you do get a certificate for completing the programme. You can use this program, you can use that certificate to apply for future job roles. You can put it into your CV, okay? Now, to achieve that, you've got to pass 3 units within the qualification. So the first one is equality and diversity in society. The second one is looking at equality and diversity in sort of local communities. And then finally, unit 3, the last one, is looking at equality and diversity within the workplace. So as you can see, obviously the qualification focuses on equality and diversity around a whole host of different sort of situations. Now, in sort of who this qualification is aimed for or how it's beneficial, if you are currently working in sort of like an advisor type role, it'll be incredibly beneficial for yourself. Other sort of sectors that it helps to benefit is people working within the teaching or education section, care workers as well. This is a great qualification for. As well as any other sort of healthcare roles, as well as customer service. So if you are currently working within those roles, it'll benefit you within your current job role. And if you're unemployed, sort of those are the careers that this can help to sort of put you in the on the right track of. But it also has personal benefits as well. So if you are, just doing this, maybe not so much for your job role, but more so just to understand what the term equality and diversity refers to, just for your own knowledge. There are personal benefits to the qualification as well. So in terms of IAG, that's what it is. Now, in terms of how the qualification is delivered, it's delivered through our eQuals platform. So ITEC Northeast have their own like online learning platform, which is called the eQuals system. Everything that you need is on the eQuals system. So your learning materials are on there, your assessment questions as to where you answer them is located within the system as well. And also when I mark your work, the feedback that you receive from me will also be located in the system as well. So everything you need is essentially in one place, which just makes it easier for you, I guess. In terms of how to get started on the eQual system, so you will have already received an email from the equal team. Now, within that email, it's an automatic email that gets sent from our system. Within there, there'll be your link to your learning and also a link to sort of change your password as well, just to something a bit more personal. If you haven't received that link yet, you might want to just get in contact with myself. My email will be at the end of this presentation. So if you just sort of send me a short email, just let me know that you haven't got it. We will work that out between us. But you should have already received that. Now, when you do obviously get access to that email and you sort of log in for the first time, I do recommend that you bookmark or favorite the page. It makes it easier to access the portal within the future instead of having to go through your email all the time to gain access to it. As part of your qualification, so there are different types of questions. So there are questions that ask you to describe. Some say, well, can you explain? Some say, can you give some examples? It might be a certain number of examples, and then some say identify. Typically, the questions that ask you to describe and explain, those are the ones that need the most detail. So as your tutor, I would expect around a paragraph of information within your answers to questions that ask you to describe or explain. So those need the most detail. Whereas ones that say give examples and identify, those need a bit less detail, if I'm being honest with you. But just be wary that if you get a question that says give examples, typically you'll need to give numerous examples. So giving just one isn't acceptable. I recommend that you try and give sort of 2, 3, or even 4 examples would be great. So there are different quality requirements for different types of questions. That's just something to bear in mind, okay? A couple of other key concepts that I've got to go through is just the appeals procedure. So we at ITEC Northeast have an appeals procedure. What that basically means is that you, the learner, have the right to appeal or challenge anything that I say about your work in terms of marking it. So in terms of practical context, if I do mark your work and I sort of refer the work back to you to resubmit, in theory, you have the right to challenge any assessment decision that I make. So if you thought maybe that your work was warrant of a pass, for example, we do have an appeals procedure, which obviously if you do want to make an appeal, I will go through that with you individually. And I will obviously notify you of the steps that you need to take. So that's just something that you need to understand as a learner, that you've got those rights. And the other thing is plagiarism. So plagiarism is obviously where you take someone else's work and pass it off as your own without referencing or anything like that. We don't, or we can't accept any plagiarized work at ITEC Northeast. So the work essentially has to be in your own words for every answer. You have to, well, you don't have to, sorry, but you can reference things that you might have found online, such as like statistics and things like that. If you do choose to do that, which I recommend that you do, you have to reference then the page or place that you got it from. So if you're aware of something called Harvard referencing, that's what we would expect. If you're not aware of something called Harvard referencing, I recommend that you just sort of look that up on YouTube, just in terms of what it is. There are Harvard referencing generators online which you can use, which basically create the reference for you. You just need to input the details of where you found it. But that would be expected to be included within your work if you do choose to reference any work or information elsewhere. In terms of the awarding body and the funding of the qualification, so it is, like I said, it's accredited. So you do get a certificate for completing the program, and that certificate comes through NCFE. So they are the awarding body in this instance. If you sort of want to find out any more information about what they can offer you in terms of other programs and things like that, you can go onto their website, which is www.ncfe.co.uk. The first certificate that you receive from NCFE when you complete the program is completely free of charge. There's no cost incurred to you whatsoever. But if you do lose your certificate, there are replacement fees which are attached to replacement certificates that you might need in the future. So just keep the first certificate that you get free sort of safe, and put it with your other qualifications and certificates that you might have. Last couple of slides now. So expectations, just in terms of what you can expect of me, but also what I need to sort of expect of you really as a learner. From you, I would expect obviously that you work towards the deadlines as closely as possible. The system does give you sort of like set deadlines initially when you first get enrolled. However, these deadlines can be changed and adapted based on your progress. So if you, let's say, are having some personal circumstances outside of work that are stopping you from completing the work essentially to meet those deadlines, as long as you communicate that with me, I can change and adapt those deadlines based on how you're progressing. Okay, but initially, just try and work towards them as closely as possible. Okay, give 100% effort in the work that you complete. Okay, so that's something that I obviously expect. And then any correspondence that you maybe send to me directly, whether it's through email, directly calling me, obviously I would expect it to just be you behaving in a respectful way, and vice versa. Obviously you'll get that top amount of respect from me. In terms of what you can expect from me, in terms of feedback, so if you do submit some work to me, I'll try to mark your work and get some feedback to you probably within 5 days, I would say, is what I try to work towards, as well as obviously supporting you with anything that you need. So all of the learning materials that you do need are in the system, but sometimes you might need some additional guidance in some areas. If that is the case, please don't hesitate to obviously get in contact with me, and we can work through sort of certain parts of it together. Last slide now. So in terms of how long you'll get to complete the course, initially I think the system will give you around 4 or 5 weeks to complete the program. So your last due date, if I remember right, is around 5 weeks from when you first get enrolled. However, in terms of when I would need you to be completed by, in total, it would be no later than 10 weeks. That would be the cut-off point. If you can obviously get your work done before that and even work towards that 5-week deadline that you initially set, that would be great. But there is like a buffer zone in terms of that additional 5 weeks after that, in terms of time to get it obviously completed by. But again, try to work towards those first deadlines. In terms of additional support, so I have mentioned this, but if you want to do a quick Zoom session or you want to correspond through email, whichever way you prefer, that support can be obviously delivered to you. In terms of assessment, there's nothing that you need to worry about in terms of assessment other than the questions and the answers that you submit to those questions. There's no exams. There is no outside assessments which take place like observations and things. It's just through knowledge. And then finally, obviously, if you do need that further help, the way that you would contact me is through my email, just located in the bottom right-hand corner there, which is a.parkin at itechnortheast.co.uk or itechne.co.uk. And again, any questions or concerns that you might have, again, just fire those through email to me. It could be questions that I might not have answered, or it might be questions clarifying some things that I mentioned. But again, yeah, like I say, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you've got. And I look forward to supporting you. So thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it.